So let's let our panelists introduce themselves and their current works.
Yes. First?
What is the name?
I've murdered your names. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. I'm Sam Logan. I do an online comic called Sam and Fuzzy. It is not an autobio comic. Don't name your character after yourself. When it isn't, it's a bad idea.
I'm Ryan. I do an online comic called Dinosaur Comics, and I also write the Adventure Time comic, and I also wrote a Choose Your Adventure version of Hamlet called Fear Not Me.
My name is Ryan Sommer. I do a webcomic called Least I Can Do, another one called Looking for Group, another one called The Gutters, another one called
Gutters
anymore. Hey, it's coming back. I'm not finished. When it's your turn to talk, you can talk. Another one called The Bear, another one called Caption, and one called Something Positive. Not very good though. Randy, go ahead.
My name is Raymond, and I draw something positive, and I also occasionally do Super Super and Rhymes with Witch.
You say Ryan's a little bitch.
Rhymes with Witch. I wish I named it that now. That would be so much more fun than there was a domain.
I guess the domain's probably not available.
I bet it is.
So just give it up for the panel first of all. Greatly nice turnout. This is all fantastic. So I wanted to discuss where we stand in webcomics. Obviously, it's no longer just an also-ran where people just couldn't afford to get digital or get print distribution. It's massive. I mean, all you guys are extremely popular online. So I'm just curious what you guys think about where we stand right now. We'll talk about the future later. But have you seen any improvements based on where you began versus where you are today?
So I have a grand theory of webcomics, and I'll make it really short. And the basic idea is that comics North America for like, let's say 15, 20, 30 years, were basically in a ghetto where you had to go to the comic book shop to buy them, and that's a step. It's like going to a porn store to buy porn. You have to go into a specialty shop. And webcomics changed that because they make them very accessible, and you can forward links from very easily. And I would get emails from people saying, hey, Ryan, I don't like comics, but I like your comic. I'd be like, surprise, you like comics. There's more to comics than what you thought there were. And it's a metaphor of living in a town where the movie theater only ever shows romantic comedies. And you grow up liking movies a little bit, but getting pretty tired of romantic comedies. And finally saying, man, I guess I just don't like movies, when really you just don't like specific genre of movies. And webcomics, I think, has helped to change that and sort of bring comics into the whole medium knowledge genre world, which I think is great. So webcomics, saving comics, absolutely.
Ryan, your thoughts?
I think back to how it was when we all started about 10 years ago. I guess maybe like 30 for you.
Yeah.
But it's a very different landscape now than it was. You know, I think it's crazy overpopulated now, and I think to start now, a webcomic versus when we started, it's a completely different area. I also think that when we started, which makes it sound like a grand old man, but there was no shit. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter. There was no.
There's no social media except for LiveJournal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
It's still there, it's just mostly Russian.
But no, I really do think that we were the next evolutionary step in comic books, and I think digital is the next step, and it is where, you know, we've gone. But I think as our predecessors before us, things are starting to change very rapidly, faster than it did for them. You look at like newspaper guys, they had a good like 40, 50 years, right? Like
More than that.
years.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for arguments, I'm just laying on facts. All right, 40 years, that's how long paper's been around. Whatever, 100 years, these mythological numbers. And they had a really long time. We've had like 10, 15 years tops, and it's already, you know, the attention span of the audience is smaller. They want video content now. I think they're getting tired of static content. I think we're about to get into the next step. And change your life.
Yeah, a lot of it is, you know, everything's moving towards phones and tablets. That's kind of where you have to have a site that's at least easily navigable by that. And that's important.
Well, it's also, I was looking at Google Analytics the other day, which is the worst thing any creator could ever look at, because it's either going to make you like have the best day ever or the worst day ever.
And then you find out how wrong it is half the time anyway.
Exactly, like that's not.
It doesn't
real
count a
information.
tenth of your audience. Great analytics. Thanks.
But sometimes, it's ridiculous. But look at how many people now are viewing your content on a mobile phone or a tablet or like people want, again, when we started, 90% of the audience was on a computer.
Yeah, desktop.
It's not that way anymore, it's very different.
Yeah, well, I mean, and everything about it changes. It's one of the things that I like about it, but I've been doing my comic for 10 years. I've been like making a living off of my comic for like 3 or 4. And the thing I just think is really significant is like every one of those years, the thing I did that made up the biggest part of that living was different from what it was the previous year. Like it's just like I remember, 5 years ago when it was like, well, the business model for webcomics is the comics are free and then you sell T-shirts. And that was it. And like that was the formula. And like now this year, I barely sold any shirts, but I kickstarted an enormous book, and some years it's conventions or whatever. It's just it's very dynamic, and that's a great place to be if that's the sort of thing that excites you.
What
is that?
Kickstarter.
I think we'll deal with that one for sure.
Yeah.
That does bring up a point. I remember when it happened for Randy. Let's talk about the moment, because oddly enough, everyone here at this panel has transitioned, correct me if I'm wrong, transitioned to the point where this is now your career.
Oh no, I'm a porn star.
Oh, aside from that, pleasure. Not, but all of you have transitioned to the point where this is now a career, and you're able to do this for a living. And I mean, Randy, when you with something positive, what was it on the site? It was something else to follow. You want to talk about?
Yeah, I did in 2004. I was working a full-time job, 40 hours a week. I was doing the comics for 40 hours a week, and then I was working in theater at least 20 hours a week. So I wasn't sleeping a lot. I'd miss updates, things would happen, and people would whine about it because, I owed them free entertainment. And finally one day I got really irritated with it. And it was intended as a, shut up thing. So if you don't like it, I make $24,000 a year. It's not much. Pay my salary and I quit my job while I do the comic. Otherwise, feel free to shut the fuck up and enjoy what I give you. And in an hour I got $4,000. And I was like, oh, that is not where I thought this would go. Hey, awkward. And I got that salary and a lot of emails of, you only make $24,000 a year, you live in Boston? And so, yeah, it was kind of surprising, and I never thought this would be my career. I stumbled into it without a business plan, which is a horrible way to start this off, or any understanding of, self-employment tax in the United States, things like that. So I had to learn it all basically in a month, which is not fun. But at the same time, it's been my full-time job since 2004. And I'm lucky in that aspect. I don't work with pants on. My commute is I walk out of my bedroom into the spare room where I hide from cats. That's kind of a nice day. I'm very fortunate in that aspect, but it's not a way I would ever recommend another person doing it, because after I did that, there was a slew of other people who either said, that's a great idea, I'm going to try it. Or if that asshole can do it, I can easily do it. And a lot more than the last one, actually. And most...
That was actually the entirety of our business plan.
Yeah. The problem is I had like 100,000 readers at the time. No, I had like 90-some thousand readers. Less than 10% of my audience, less than 1% of my audience donated. And that's just reality. The bulk of your audience does not buy merchandise, do not read blog posts, they don't know anything but your comic. So I'm in a situation where a very small number of people said, I will throw a lot of money at this as much as I can. And most will piggyback. And then you have people like, I've got 40 readers, I hope they'll donate enough for me to. And then I got all these emails of, because of you, I've ruined my life. I actually had a folder of, I had a folder of like 70-something emails of, I tried this and it ruined my life. Just so
70?
Like 70-something emails, people who tried this and it just fell apart on them.
You have 70 emails saying you ruined my life?
Yeah. No, I got them in a month.
How do you deal with it? How do you...
My reply was a lot of if people email me and ask like, hey, should I do this? I always did the whole, what's your readership? I would talk them out of it.
Right.
Or say, look, here's the reality. And a few people tried it anyway, like, it didn't work out, but it helped,
Right.
But some people
And the
like,
rest started Keen Spot.
Not
Too soon?
Comic Holocaust.
I'm Jewish, it's cool.
But I had a lot of people who'd email me like, I tried this and you did, and my comics are much better than yours, and I should have been doing it because you did it. I ruined my life, and my reply was, well, your life wasn't worth much anyway. Because if you're going to email me that, I just don't care.
So I have one email where someone said I saved their lives, and it was actually through merchandise. I have a T-shirt that sort
They
of
tried to hang himself and then
no, it's constructed.
tore through.
No, I made this T-shirt like ingredients for human body and percentage of makeup of different minerals and stuff, and it said average serving size 80 kilograms, which was the average human size. And this guy was like, that seems awfully high. I'm only like 40 or 50 kilograms, which is tremendously underweight. So he goes to the doctor, and doctor's like, what are you doing? So he's like, yeah, I'm eating more, I've turned my life around. I didn't know I was underweight. I don't know my doctor friend, like, how is this person alive? Anyway.
I started eating solids.
Yeah.
Well, I had a weird kind of evolution to my career as comics, where I started a shitty company in my parents' basement when I was 17, and I sold it 3 months later. And then I got into business management consulting. I worked in the video game industry and I ran a law firm for a few years. A very strange thing. And then I said, this high-paying job is great. But here's what I want to do. I want to write some dick jokes. And then, I said, I'm going to give it. I've always, always written. I've always done a whole bunch of school of different projects. And I said, I was going to give myself 3 years. And if I couldn't make a living off of it in 3 years, I was going to go back to law firm, which is a pretty good fallback plan. As far as fallback plan goes. But fortunately, within 2 years, it was we were getting a salary, and the Blind Fair was formed, and I've been doing this full time for about 8 or 9 years now. And Blind Fair has 22 full-time employees. Only half of them are important. We're not doing porn. I was just kidding with that. Don't sound like that.
My story is actually the opposite of yours, where I was a student, I was a grad student, and I'd done the comic for 2 years at that point, and then I graduated and I had this choice between going up and trying to find a job, or failing to get a job, and then becoming a full-time web cartoonist. Which is really easy, because all you have to do is not get a job, and suddenly you're a full-time web cartoonist. So I didn't have to fall back to a great job, and fall back just choosing not to work at a real job.
They made me wear a tie.
Ridiculous.
Right.
But I didn't tell everyone it was full time for a year, because I was like, they're gonna be mad at me. My crappy comic is full time. I didn't think it was crappy, but I thought they would think it was crappy. So it was a secret, and I was like, this is a stupid secret. So I announced that I'd done full time a year ago.
You had to draw those fucking dinosaurs every day, right?
Perfect.
Yeah,
It's exactly the same.
freehand. It's really
I don't know how you do that.
skill, pure skill.
So I guess I'm the most recent full-timer here. I started Salmon Fuzzy when I was in university, like second year university, doing a history degree. And it was just a hobby that I was doing on the side for 3 years for fun. And by the time I graduated, it had grown to the point where it was actually making money, and I was doing conventions, but it wasn't really like, it wasn't full-time, it was just like a nice kind of side project. And so I got a job working at a pair of children's science magazines that used to be published in Victoria. One was called Yes Mag, and the other was No, K-N-O-W. I don't know if anyone ever grew up reading these Canadian children's science magazines, but I did design work and illustration for them, and it was great because the magazines were only 6 issues a year, and they were very flexible with the idea of me being a cartoonist and stuff, so I just did those 2 projects, like alternating one day doing one thing, one day doing the other thing for like 6 years, and I never had that motivation to be like, oh, the comic's going really well, I could just quit my regular job, because I liked working for the kids' magazines, like they were really cool magazines, and I got to draw cartoons from them and stuff. So basically, they were struggling financially, and I always said, like, well, when they go under, then I'll go full-time. So 2 years ago, they went under, and then I went full-time.
Other people had to suffer for your dreams.
Well, I mean, I didn't deliberately sabotage the magazine, as far as I know. But no, and it's weird because because I've been doing it 2 years now. Like the last couple of years I was doing it, Salmon Fuzzy was making more money than the magazine job was. but I was still doing it because I liked it and because it kind of seemed like it was very tenuous anyway. But since going full time, the amount of like more stuff I've been able to do just by merit of being able to focus entirely on Sam and Fuzzy makes me wonder sometimes whether I should have just made that leap. Because even though I like the magazine, like if I left it behind, maybe I would have had more time to make more stuff by now. It's not like a big regret or anything, because I mean I'm only 30 years old, so there's still a lot of time. But like sometimes I do wonder about that.
Plenty of time to fail.
Yeah.
Well, we brought up the big K word. Let's just dive right into that, because that has been a game changer. And the fact that you
took me
pulled
like 2 minutes to figure out what the K was.
Excuse, oh, that K word. The Jew was very brief. But Randy, the fact that you pulled off what you did completely outside the Kickstarter world is huge. And then we got Ryan here, who annihilated records with his To Be or Not to Be. Has anybody picked up the book To Be or Not to Be? Okay, well you have to now. You're obligated.
We all know who you are now.
It's
Brian North will walk around the booth. Got it yet? Got it yet?
Yeah.
Got it yet?
What was the final time? No, what was the goal? Your goal with To Be or Not to Be?
The goal was 20K, we ended up at 580.
$20,000 to $580,000. And honest to God, what do you attribute the steamroller to in that respect?
Well, I mean, I'd like to say there's this large audience of choose your adventure Shakespeare fans out there just waiting for this project to start your demo.
Finally!
But honestly, and this is like Kickstarter strategy, the best I've got, is I had stretch goals that made the book better. And so there was like this positive feedback loop of someone purchases the book, that makes it better for everyone else, it makes more people want to purchase the book, and so you get this flywheel going faster and faster.
Yeah. No, it was a hell of a thing. And so you still haven't eaten a Hamlet pizza, is that correct?
No, one of the stretch goals I said I'd make a pizza shaped like Hamlet and eat it. I made some crazy stretch goals, I thought they wouldn't go that far.
Let's just say, $500,000, his head would literally explode. He delivered.
Promises.
He delivered on his head exploding.
We
But
3D scanned my head, 3D printed it, made a bomb, stuck it in my head, blew it up in an alleyway, filmed it,
but
went on
There's
live.
some weird psychological stuff to that.
there you go. Nobody's going to come near this goal. I'm just going to make my head
I was
explode.
surprised how easy it is to make a bomb in Canada.
Oh, yeah. I don't like guns. Bombs on the
It
other
was,
hand.
if you want to make a bomb, you take. Not to get after the fan. No, you take some dry ice, you put it in like a NOS container, put it in some hot water, seal it, run away, the dry ice evaporates, that's expanding gas, eventually will explode. The trick is, we didn't realize, it took 7 minutes for my head to explode. And at that point we realized we made a bomb, we didn't know how big the fuse was, we didn't know how much it would explode. And we did it in an alleyway, we're just sort of like saying, no one go in this alleyway, we put a bomb there.
Please don't call the cops.
Yeah, but then it blew up and pieces went over houses and stuff. It was really great.
But
So Kickstarter.
it was remarkable, and it was just, I mean, honestly, it's an aberration. I mean, the level of success of that project, even though it's a fantastic book, it was incredible how
There's
far.
certainly an element of
Yeah.
luck in any project.
And I mean, even was it Order to the Stick? They were
Yeah,
another success.
over $1 million.
$1 million.
He actually eventually stopped adding stretch goals because I can't leave anything else dies, and they kept throwing money at it.
But isn't it really when you're doing a fundraiser or a Kickstarter for an existing strip like Order to the Stick? Is it cheating because it's an existing strip,
No,
or is
it's
it
not.
just for? I mean,
He was doing it
correct.
for extra product.
Sure,
It
that's what I
wasn't-
mean. Is it pre-ordering really? Is my question.
Well, it was, he had a huge expense because he was running out of a bunch of books, and he couldn't shell out like those 100K or something like that I think he originally needed to reprint all these books, and he just didn't have the out-of-pocket expense. So he went to Kickstarter and said, "This is what I want to do." Well, and then it exploded on the guy, and the guy's going to spend the next 5 years
Yeah.
trying to fulfill
Everything.
everything he promised.
Right.
So.
But I mean, it's not just pre-orders because you get things on top of it, which and it's also, and for some people a way. I haven't run a kick. Well, I can say technically had a Kickstarter since Canadians technically can't have. Well, they can. They can now.
Hey, by the way, Cesis is here, so maybe you want to stop talking.
Yeah, I'm wearing one of their lanyards.
It's quality man.
Yeah, when Silver wanted to do a Kickstarter for at least they could do pilot, there was a problem in that Canadians could have accounts, they couldn't run projects, Amazon payments wouldn't accept money. And so you need a really dumb American who's willing to help you at that point.
What, mule?
The Internal Revenue Service calls me a few times a year, literally just like, so, we're looking over your records. This invoice for this Kickstarter. I got an invoice for it. Yeah, we know, it's legal. We know. Just calls me up to bully me. Hey, basically, it's like, we just want to talk about your account. Like, okay, IRS, that's what you want at 7 a.m. That's good, that's good. But yeah, so, but it's a way that you can really bond with your readership. But you're creating a lot of promises you have to fulfill. And there are a lot of people doing Kickstarter. There's a lot of Kickstarters that have bloated, and people have failed horribly. And
We are so close to the first class action lawsuit for Kickstarter. I know it's coming.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I just hope it's not against me.
No.
Well, no, you actually
Everything's fulfilled.
yeah.
Yeah, the comic side I think has been pretty successful.
Board games has been.
Board games,
Board games,
I-
video games.
Well, actually, board games has had a lot of the big failures where they got their goal, but they didn't actually deliver.
The guy's like, I'm gonna refund you. Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the thing that's been really advantageous for the comic Kickstarters is that most of the people who are doing them are people who've done, like, especially if they're books, who've done smaller books before. You don't know exactly how it works and exactly how much it costs. And it's also like a relatively straightforward thing to produce, in that the content's probably already done. You just put it in the file and
Maybe you make some extra bonus content.
yeah,
but-
or it's not like being like, kickstart my video game, we haven't started it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like we're gonna use this money to make a whole game.
We want
from
$2 million. We're going to make an MMO. Me and my buddy have some great ideas.
Yeah, like
We're
there's-
going to
Give us
herd
money.
unicorns.
Even-
There's the idea.
Even if you're like really talented and doing a really good job, there are just so many opportunities for complications in a project that is only just starting. You know, like in the video game industry, like the regular video game industry outside of Kickstarter, it is like so business as usual for a game project to run over budget, and then you go and harp on your publisher and you hope they give you more money, and either they give you more money and you make the game better, or they say no way, you have to cut a bunch of stuff. Like that's just like how that industry works.
How many Kickstarters have you seen recently that end, and the first update that you get is, well, I guess we did it, so I'm gonna source out the material now.
Yeah, like
Shouldn't that be something you do beforehand? Like, isn't that
like how did you know what amount of money you needed? If you, like, because this is the thing, like with making even something like relatively simple like a book. We did a Kickstarter for a Sam and Fuzzy Omnibus collection that finished about a month or so ago. And it's just
And
like
how much did you raise?
$171,000.
You're buying my dinner tonight.
Someday when I have that money, it's gonna be great. After this thing is done. But so it's a book that's it's a set of 2 books, and they're 1,500 pages long altogether. It's like a big omnibus thing. And so when we had to set the goal, we had to source find a printer and find out exactly how much it would cost to print a book of that size, and then they mailed us fake versions of the book so we could weigh them to see how much they would cost to ship, and calculate how much the shipping would be in different parts of the world.
Yeah, I'm curious about that stage. Now, for any aspiring artists out there who have a collection of some kind, when you go to a publisher like this, how did you go about that? I mean, Ryan, obviously you worked with Tobacco previously for Dinosaur Comics. How did you approach, let's say, To Be or Not to Be, which is a very different beast?
Yeah, I went through a publisher in the States called Webcomic. It's a very thin publisher, so effectively you do still a lot of work, they'll handle the printing. I can get around the Canadian restriction. Do it with someone you trust. Yeah, because they get all the money.
You should have gone to Mexico. I told you.
I've handled with over $330,000 of your dollars and never taken any. I actually once wanted to withdraw all my bank account and roll in it.
You don't want to do that.
Then I found out it's illegal in my state to walk around with over $10,000 on you because you're technically drug trafficking.
Texas.
And I just knew I'd go to the bank and the cops going, back up. Sanctuary!
So you went with the bread thing?
Yeah, and for that, it was a matter of we already knew each other and we're sort of a sense of we were looking for a project to do together, and it's really fit nicely. But it's nice once you. The advantage of doing a webcomic is that it shares your work with people, but it also shows you're someone who can meet a deadline and can produce good work, and almost like a really entertaining resume. And so when you go to publish and say, hey, I want to do a book, they don't say, who are you, what's going on? They say, oh, no, I've heard of that. People seem to like it, so I guess we like it too.
So it's very difficult, obviously, for an unpublished author, but like you say, if you've got a webcomic to show, at least it shows that you're capable of sticking with something, you've got a body of work, and it's legitimate. It's not like like you just happen to have, you put together a book. You've got an audience. Yeah, that's number one, I would imagine, is that you've proven you have an audience.
And you've done it for a few years, and you've probably gotten better at it.
So I'm just gonna go on a tear for a second. Here's what drives me crazy. All right. Is that you have a body of work, you've done it, you're starting a new project, you prove that you can do this, and that, you can meet deadlines, etc. What drives me crazy is the following. These people who are just starting a webcomic, who have never put a page, are going to Kickstarter and asking for money.
They're trying to start their entire career based off like
That drives me, the strip search kids drives me crazy. Like, fucking nuts, really. Don't air that.
well, a lot of strip people actually do have comics because Erica Moen has completed a
Okay,
project.
Erica Moen is a very different. Erica Moen should not have been in the house in the first place. She's incredibly,
I should have. I've never watched the show because I can't stand reality shows. They make me insane. But I mean, I don't know.
Like, antsy in a way, but.
As a nervous, like, oh my god, why are you doing this? Just keep your life private. Maybe it's because I can't stand the idea of anyone watching me at home.
It's nightmarish. When Erica was like, I'm going on the show, I was like,
She told me, and I was like,
I can't.
good for you, honey.
I hope you really enjoy that kind of thing, because that would just, I'd have a heart attack.
Could you imagine either you or I on that show?
No, it would be like the worst show ever.
I would probably bite someone's throat out.
And I
Hey,
would
we're
just
gonna get a challenge. Die!
And I'd just be crying just the whole time, just crying and crying.
I'm surrounding you like a shark. Protect.
The thing is, those are actually two very strong reality TV archetypes, though. So
Yeah.
maybe
we make some money. I don't know.
I would think it was Big Brother, you know, like make out with someone in the bathroom. It's really weird.
I guess the thing about Kickstarter ultimately is that I think a lot of people have a lot of preconceptions about what Kickstarter is or isn't for. And like, Kickstarter is for raising money for stuff, and that's it. And like,
Kickstarter is to raise money for a project that is, there's no other way for you to do it.
Yeah.
Like this is
But
how.
that's not really even true. Like that's definitely how people view Kickstarter, and I think that's the biggest value of Kickstarter, but ultimately anybody can decide to start a Kickstarter.
100%, but
Yeah.
to me, the way to use Kickstarter and not like abuse Kickstarter, so to
Yeah.
speak, is to use it for projects that you can't ordinarily fund. Like I would never go to Kickstarter and say, I want to raise money to run Blind Ferret's operating expenses for next year.
No,
That's fucking ridiculous.
that-
I would never
Who would do that?
I don't know.
Well, no, but the thing is that I generally agree with that as well. Like that's my personal philosophy. Like when I ran my Kickstarter, I had a lot of very specific personal restrictions about what I would do for rewards and stretch goals and things like that. They're just based on what I'm comfortable with. I guess the thing is ultimately what Kickstarter is a site for is you pitch an idea, and if people like it, they pay you. And if they don't like it, they don't pay you. And so like lots of people run Kickstarter and run kind of like, nah,
Yeah.
I don't care about that. But so then I don't
Exactly, you don't support it.
And I mean, as long as they fulfill whatever they promise, then I feel like they've done it right.
I have backed at the weird shit. I got a wind turbine. What the fuck do I need with a wind turbine?
But so like I think of the people on Strip Search, and like a lot of these people are really young, and they've come off of that show with a really unusual position for a web cartoonist, which is that they are more famous than their work is as a result
Yeah.
of that show, because they barely started doing comics. They were in it for this contest with this prize at the top. They didn't get it, but they have a bunch of exposure, and they perhaps temporarily have a lot of enthusiasm around themselves as personalities, and people who are like, I really thought you should have won because I wanted to see you
Yeah.
quit your job and make a comic for a year. So a lot of them pitched Kickstarters. They're basically like, I will make a comic for a year and not have a regular job. And so it's like they didn't have to do that step where they do the comic on the side while they work as a waiter or whatever. Like they were given an opportunity. Well, the thing is, you don't sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes somebody puts a comic online and it becomes popular like in 2 weeks, and then they just become an enormous success. And some people kind of like me, they slug at it for years and years before it goes anywhere. But it's just, I guess it's just like I can't really resent them for it, because honestly, I think it would be really stupid for them not to have done it.
It was a touch. The iron was hot. You have to strike right then.
And part of my reaction when I went and looked at a lot of the Kickstarters is like, man, I wish what this was kickstarting was a book or something.
Yeah.
Like, and so I was like, this is not really for me. At the same time, maybe it's for the best that these really young cartoonists who've never tried to make a book before didn't decide to launch their careers with a book Kickstarter, because like, as we know, there's like, even on something that simple, there's like so many ways to screw that up if you don't have the experience.
A lot of beginning comics creators, obviously, you're convinced that they're going to have an an ocean of ideas, but as They Might Be Giants said, there's only 2 songs in me, and I just wrote the third. So I remember, I can't remember the name of it now, of course, like every other one, but there were lots of promising webcomics that got started, and you're like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then after a few months, it just stopped.
Yeah.
And it's obviously because they completely lost the
When I
drive.
first started doing my comic,
God.
when I first started doing my webcomic, there was a guy who's doing another one, and he sent me emails. First webcomic he's ever interacted with, I just had 2 strips up, and he's like, hey, this is a really good strip. I've been doing a webcomic for 4 years. Let me give you some advice. And so it was kind of like, hey, your font might be too small to read. Just very nice critical stuff. And then the last one is like, whatever you do, don't miss an update for the first 3 months, which I didn't. He's like, people are expecting you to fail or lose interest. And if you can break that first 3 months, people think you'll be around. I actually only missed 2 updates my first year. Both those times I had temperatures over 100. Well, that would be...
That's not an excuse. What else you got?
Yeah. One was hospitalized. Oh, well.
If you had a buffer, that wouldn't have happened.
I actually had a buffer for a long time.
Well, suck it anyway.
It's my ass, human.
All right, now.
We share a booth together, in case you can't tell. Oh, one thing I will say on the Kickstarter thing, the only reason I ever sent it any of the kids from striptease was one woman. Strip search. Whatever. I didn't watch the show. It was one of the women Kickstarted a comic called The Last Halloween, and I actually a thing called The Last Trick or Treaters. So I was like, change your name.
So that leads to an interesting question about the buffer and starting out and running out of material. Would it make more sense for an upcoming or a wannabe webcomic artist, should they build up a fairly substantial body of work before beginning?
Yes.
Yeah, but no one does that.
Well, actually, we're in the next year, Blackbird, we've picked up some up-and-coming artists and writers, and we're launching 6 new webcomics this year. Before any of them go up, they have 45 strips in the can. There's nothing until that's there.
That's what happens when you have like a project manager. I guess.
Yeah.
Because they're pitching.
You're in a very different situation from
Yeah.
most people, though.
Why not looking at me?
Well,
No,
like,
I didn't mean it as a criticism. I just meant that's that's your excellent prerogative.
Yeah, but even
guy.
even for my own projects, if we do try and buffer except for gutters, which is topical, but
Yeah.
everything else, I think a buffer. Is
I had
good.
a buffer my first year, and it actually really did help a lot. Because like if something came up, I usually had at least a 2-week. But the best one I had a 4-month buffer at once.
Seriously?
Yes.
That's a wet dream.
It was a 4-month buffer, so every night I come back and I'm like, upload the comic, and it was so wonderful, and I miss it so much.
I had a 3-month buffer when I started because it was originally a university newspaper strip, and then when I decided to put it online, I ran the old ones first and kept going. And I like having a buffer, but after a while, I let the buffer get smaller. Now I don't really have one. I'll build one up like if I know I'm going away somewhere. Yeah. But like I don't know. I just realized at some point I wasn't the kind of person who missed updates. So like it's just no, it's alright. No, I just mean like it's a personality type. No, it's more like it's just that like you can't like stuff doesn't come up.
Sam lives in like a nice Avalon where like parents can never die.
I just draw the comics and they're finished. If something bad happens, I draw the comic and I'm happy.
So Ryan, what's your buffer?
I didn't have a buffer initially. Well, that's a total lie. Why am I saying that? I had a 2-week buffer initially, and then 2 weeks later I had no buffer anymore. And for the first like 5 years, I wrote the comic that morning, put it up around 11 o'clock that day, which was great. So it's super fresh, and my arc with the comic, when I write, I think it's the greatest thing ever. And then over the next 6 months, my opinion of it drops and drops and drops and drops. And then once you cross that barrier, it starts being an old comic. It goes up and up and up. And it's like, oh, I wish I could write like I could a year ago, because that stuff was really good. But the problem was if I had a slow morning, some days it takes time to be funny for me.
Yeah.
I would put the comic up late. I was like, man, if I had a buffer of 1, I wouldn't have this problem. So 5 years in, I did an extra comic one day, and now I have a buffer of 1.
Well, I guess you've established yourself.
Yeah.
Kids, don't start out with 1 buffer.
Do 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks is optimum. If you're doing an actual full storyline, go like honestly, if you can get away with a month or so, your life will be
Fuck
amazing.
America.
What we do now?
CNN, fired employee shoots 4 people, 2 fatally, including company owner in Florida.
Okay, that's Texas, thank God.
Oh, that just completely annihilated what thought I had in my head.
USA,
I can
USA.
Read the news.
Read the news, yeah.
See, my wife sent me cat pictures.
Calms you down. Well, since I lost the train of thought that I had, let's open the floor to some questions. If anyone has some questions for this illustrious panel, just raise your hand. Anyone, don't be shy. You got a lot of potential. Are there any, here we go. Yes, sir.
What do you think the future, the next big step for Webcomics?
Sure, all right, let's, so Ryan, you mentioned mobile is a big part of the.
Which one are you talking to?
The one that mentioned mobile.
Oh, yeah. Wow, I got, hey. Man, this is like prison. I don't know why I went there.
You've read the comic, we all know why.
I don't even have to edit in dicks.
What's the question?
Future of comics. Where are we heading?
I think we're getting back. I think people are going to start wanting more. I think we're going to head more into video content. I think animation. I think as creating animation and that type of content is becoming cheaper and cheaper. And the biggest thing, webcomics, for us anyway, was that when you first started out, there was no cost of entry. It was very, very low, right? What did you need? You needed, you can get free hosting, you can get a free Photoshop-like program. It's very cheap. Animation used to be this very expensive thing to get into, and now it's getting cheaper and cheaper and easier and easier. And I think that's where things are gonna, start to head. In terms of mobile, everything's going mobile. Everybody should be thinking about how to serve your content through a phone, through a tablet, iOS, Android, how to do it properly, and how to add something different, that's not for the web, but just for mobile devices. That's what I'm usually right, so it's that.
What else?
No, I can, well, my most successful thing I've ever made was this year, and it was a 1,500-page hardcover book. So I feel like that's really backward looking, I guess, in a sense.
I think books are
Yeah.
becoming more collectible.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
The books are collectibles. You're not selling issues. Like, fuck anybody who's involved in any kind of comic issues, fuck them. Like, really, fuck them hard.
Come by my booth and buy my super good book.
What's your time for? Available now.
We did it, the Kickstarter, there were 2 versions. There was like a regular kind of standard paperback edition, and then there was a fancy hardcover crazy edition. And the hardcover version outsold the subcover by like 6-to-1 or something.
Wow.
Like it's just
People
like
want it on their shelf.
Yeah.
And now it's
if you're just reading it to read it, you read it digitally. And if you want to own it and preserve it, you want a deluxe version. So I feel like the future of webcomics, at least as far as having still physical content to sell, is getting away from regular books and more towards super highly collectible one-of-a-kind type.
My grand theory of this is that it's our culture, I think it's pretty much a worldwide culture thing that allows this to take place, both as artifact, both as collectible thing, is that I can't go to Ryan and say, happy birthday, Ryan. I got you this URL, check it out, there's a comic you like. But I say, happy birthday, I got you this book, because we have this thing in our monkey brains that says gifts have to cost something, either time or money. And a URL seems like a cheap, lazy gift. Even if I put a lot of thought into what comics you would like.
$100 subscription.
Yeah, but no one does subscriptions online.
That'd be the worst gift
It
ever.
would be the worst. You really enjoy it because of the site. If you never went to it.
Hey, by the way, happy birthday. You want the news? CNN.com. Happy 50th anniversary, Mom, Dad.
But if I had used that book of Google that if you target today, you would be like, that's not so good.
Yeah.
Put it over there, I'll sleep on it.
Yes. What do you guys think about people who've done traditionally print comics going into webcomics, like Mark Wade and everyone else?
Good.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I actually, before Wade got into Throwback, we actually sat down with him and he's a fantastic guy, Wade, because he wants to kind of figure out himself.
Yeah.
He's like, he asked me very specific questions, and when I would offer more, he's like, no, I just want to see how it works.
Yeah.
So he was very like experimental, and he really wanted to just try things out. But it's a massive landscape. It's the audience of the whole world. There's no, more the merrier, you know what I mean? And he's producing great content, and I believe if you produce great content, you can do something with it.
Yeah, comics called Girl Cheese that started off as a print comic.
That's an
And
example.
he got folio. And around 2004, he contacted me. He's like, I'm in a situation where either I just end this comic or I transition. Because he was having trouble diamond, and the books weren't selling in small comic shops. What do? You're an independent creator. And that market doesn't serve independent creators. It doesn't want to. It wants cheap, big, easy. It wants 10 issues of Batman-related titles, 20 issues of X-Men-related titles. They get printed in bulk and cheap. And if you're printing it on your own, you're only printing maybe 5,000 copies, you're paying way more. And he... Phil Folio within a year was just doing gangbusters. It's way bigger than what it was. He actually, if anything, sells his books, his trades. He sells them out a lot.
He's told me he's never sold more books or made more money off of Real Genius than he has in his years since he went online. It's crazy.
And his audience would, probably 10 times, if not more, what he did as print. It doesn't bother me. I think it's great. I always hated when I see creators who've been working traditional print try it, do it stupid, go, no, this doesn't work. Which was a big problem around 2007.
Or when they also, all the news reports said that Mark Waid invented webcomics.
Yeah, that was annoying.
Oh, we've been doing this for a decade.
Yeah, but there's plenty. It's an open land. I think it's a great idea. I would like to see more do it. It doesn't hurt. I'm in a situation where it doesn't hurt me if someone else is reading someone else's webcomic. It's not the
The more
same.
people reading comics, the better we all are.
Yeah, I don't mind promoting I'll promote Jeff Jans, I'll promote Brian, I'll promote my friends. And if someone goes starts reading that comic, it's like they're stealing from me because my comic's free. And there is enough space for all of us. So I think it's one of the nice things about this industry, has been for me, the people I've noticed who seem to be the most successful are the ones who are the least threatened by other cartoonists. And the ones I met who are the most threatened usually take. Because no one wants to help them out. Like, if you walk up to me at a convention and tell me how much you hate me, and you can't legally read my stuff, I'm not going to help you.
These are things that only happen. People come to a convention and tell you how much they hate.
I've had some exciting moments. I've also been walking really sweet, but I had some exciting moments. Actually, the worst one was a print cartoonist. This was back in the mid-2000s when, mid-aughts, when all these print cartoonists were having, webcomics are stealing our business! And it was some guy who had failed at print syndication. And I was at a convention, and I'm like, who's this old guy walking down the and he's walking up to each one saying, you're the reason I can't get work. Like, telling every cartoonist there.
I must have been in the washroom or something.
This was like somewhere in Idaho, and also I hear someone say, well, maybe the problem is you can't draw. And then the guy never got to me, he stalls off, well, God, no, he's just bitching at all this. But a lot of that has died out because that was an older crowd, that's older models. It's hard when your entire career is based around a specific model that can work for 100 years.
Evolve or die.
Yeah,
It's
and
also
that,
a cultural thing. Like Jim Davis can't say, hey, check out Cappy, because if paper runs Cappy, there's less room for...
yeah, and we're in a situation where we own our space. And, it does, you need to learn, you need to, as Ryan said, you have to evolve, but you also need to understand it does not hurt you if someone else reads. So Mark Waid comes to comics is great.
It seems that a really big way for an up-and-coming writer to break in is really going to be networking in this world. Like, it's always when one of you guys says, hey, this guy's amazing, this girl's amazing, you should check out her strip. And one link from one of you guys is going to jack up their traffic immensely. And that's just networking alone has got to be, would you suggest that that's a good way to get started? An attitude, obviously, in that respect?
It's odd, right? Well, I'll let you guys answer that first.
Well, the thing with networking is that usually when people set out to network, it doesn't go very well.
It's
Because
not
you're sincere.
organic, it feels weird.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, I have a comic, would you like to promote my comic? Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, but I would say 5 years ago, go to the forum and a comics link, hang out there, maybe follow the creators like on Twitter, chat them up. and do your own thing at the same time. So you're getting better at your own work, and if you can approach someone as an equal instead of someone looking for a favor,
Yeah.
then it becomes a very natural,
No, that's-
friendly thing.
I'm more, yeah, of course, that's more.
Well, the problem is a lot of people do approach it
Yeah.
as, I need a favor.
Sure.
I got to a point where I had people would email me like, hey, would you look at my comic and tell me what you think? I stopped replying to those emails because they don't want me to tell them what they think. They want me to tell them, your comic's great, I can't wait to promote it.
Yeah.
And I would actually go, well, here's the problems I'm seeing, and they just flip out. It's like, well, no, my comic's perfect. Then why did you ask me my opinion?
Here's what I do. You take those emails and you put them in a special folder, and then you hit empty trash.
Oh no! now I see that asking for critique, delete. What do you think, delete? Because I don't even trust. They may actually really want critiques, but I got.
The first thing I always delete is, I have a great idea for your comic.
Oh yeah.
Bam!
Yeah. Do not ever go to someone saying, hey, I got I want to help you with your comic. I want to I got some storylines, or I used to get a lot of, hey, I like your comic, but I really can't stand your art. Maybe you should hire me as an artist. And by the way, that's not, I still get those emails. Or, I think you really need me as a writer. It's like, I don't know who the fuck you are.
I said, I'm sorry. All right? Stop
No. It's usually it's always, I hate saying it's always college kids. They're trying to break in. It's like they're trying to find the whole, I want to find something pre-established so I can jump in on that. And it's not as common as it used to, but in the early days of webcomics, it was like every week. Oh, here's the newest guy, just trying to grab on the coattails. I'm sure he emails. In fact, Iron Queen Queen of Wands and I used to compare emails like, who emailed you today? Mix and match.
I don't respond to those emails anymore, but I do try to at least click the links to see, because I mean, like, it's true, like 95% of the time.
So bad.
You click it and you look at it, it's like, it's somebody, they're obviously either really young, hopefully, or just really inexperienced in making comics and shows, and it's just like, they're not ready for prime time. There's nothing you could have ever done to help
Yeah.
them.
But
you're
right though, if they are really good.
Every once in a while.
Oh, I've seen some
Yeah.
comments. I've seen some like artists. Like I look at them like, your work is amazing. Why aren't you promoting yourself? And I'll tell them if I think it's amazing art.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing though, just making mistakes. If you're starting a webcomic, please don't make your first comic. Hi, I'm so and so. I'm the main character. Oops, forgot to do a comic today.
Oh, yeah.
That still gets made.
Jim Davis pulled it off.
Yeah, Jim Davis is the first one.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, you had a question there, yes.
I just wanted to ask for each of you, what is your favorite webcomic to read besides your own, assuming you like reading your own?
Here comes the Mutual Admiration Society. What's your favorite webcomic?
You can go first. though.
My favorite webcomic of the webcomics drawn by the 4 people sitting at this table. My favorite webcomic right now is probably Oxford. I really like it. Yeah, I don't actually read it online when I wait for the books. That's kind of what tends to happen when I really like a comic and there are books. But I really like it. Like what? True story.
I always say the same thing because it's a softer world. And part of that is that in my first week doing a comic, Joey, the writer of the comic, emailed me saying, hey, I love your comic. What do you do with the Nobel Prize for comics? Which does not exist, by the way. And also, I started the comic in the same week, so we became pals. And it's very hard for me to extricate the work from the author when I know the author and I like the author a lot. So yeah, it's a good comic, and I like it. And the people who make it are nice too. So check it out.
I would say Oglath for me.
Oh,
She's so filthy. She makes me feel like, whoa, that's too far.
I used to read Platinum Grit, and when I I guess partway to all that, I was like, wait a minute, she doesn't really put her name as pronounced on that site. I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same person as Platinum Grit. I recognize this artwork. But I was like, that's really funny.
Ogloff, Girls with Slingshots, goodbye, I also work with Danielle a lot. We train characters randomly. So that, that's another reason I have to read it. Like, is Dowd in her comic? Is that what's coming up? Okay, good. I get these candy soon. And the comic called Edible Dirt. It's been done for years by a guy named Matt Rosberg.
I've never heard of that.
No, it's good.
It's been around for like almost a decade. He's an American expatriate living in the UK, and it's just one panel hateful jokes. Well, they did this really sweet series called Baby Hobo. It's about a baby who just gave up his family and went off on the road, and it's just a little narration of the baby who was like, he finds puppy hobo, and it's actually really cute.
Also, like, Matt Borst.
Oh, Matt Borst is
Yeah,
so.
he's like the only editorial cartoonist that I don't want to stab in the face.
Yeah. He's also like one of only 2 editorial cartoonists I know, like under the age of 40. Like it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
narrowing. Like him and JJ. JJ is like the right wing editorial
Oh, I
cartoonist.
forgot about JJ.
Pardon me?
I forgot about JJ.
JJ McCullough, who does filibuster cartoons. Yeah. Well, he's a political commentator on TV now, so he doesn't have quite as much time. He
Yeah.
writes blog posts for Huffington
He used to be
Post.
able to form me the other years ago.
But he still makes his comics slightly more regularly. But those two, and they're friends with each other, just like because they're the 2 online editorial cartoonists, like below the age of 40, and
There's just 2 of us.
They're known among editorial comics readers, the 2 editorial cartoonists who occasionally make references to video games in their setups because they've played them.
We could go on for an entire other panel about the incredible webcomics out there, but we do have to wrap it up. I'd like to get a last statement from all of you about where we stand and where you think it'll be, and let's say where you're going to be in 5 years.
I think we should start.
Where are you gonna be in 5 years?
Probably a little bit cardboard box now. I'll be hopefully still doing comics. I hope to be doing side products besides SP. And have mobile devices and then be worrying about whatever else is coming after that. Like, I need your implant apps. But I think that it's everything's gonna go more about smaller, faster, and more personal delivery. I'm sorry, I got nothing else. I'm tired.
Hopefully, our plan is Blind Fair will be launching within the next year or so a online animated cartoon network. So we're getting a lot more into animation and that type of content, and that's our plan. We're headed.
Doing an SP cartoon? Maybe for more money for me. Always the money modeling.
Oh, the Jew thing. I'm Jewish, it's okay.
There you
I
go.
have to answer this. This is the question my parents asked me.
Really?
Where do you see yourself in 5
This is what I ask
years?
myself every time I close my eyes.
I feel like the thing with webcomics is you're creating what's usually a personal work and usually an individual work based on your own terms. And I don't see that changing for anyone here. That's the constant. And the nature of whatever beast you use to distribute it can change, but telling personal stories on your own terms or personal jokes or whatever is, I think, as far out as I'm willing to project.
Like, do you?
Just say a ninja.
A ninja. Yeah, like it's like in the general terms, I don't have a lot of great predictions as far as like me personally. In 5 years, Sam and Fuzzy will have finished, so I will probably be doing a bunch of different stuff, some of which will have started long before Sam and Fuzzy is finished. So maybe like drop off the face of the internet or anything, but trying to kick us out. So yeah, the end. It's good.
Well, thank you very much to this amazing panel. Thank you all for coming out. Again, this is the awards tonight at the Chancellor Hall. If you'd like to join us. Thank you very much.
Outdoor tables.